Alright, people, peace. Shoot this video. I'm headed back the way I need to be going. Peace and greetings. Pork chops and bacon grease, all that good shit. It's Brother Benini, aka Beniti, aka Brother Mike. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about, probably got about 30 minutes or so. Just amazes me no matter how much you talk to people. And again, I'm not talking about quote unquote what we would label as a person that's not conscious or woke. And as you know, I can't stand those fucking words. I'm talking about so-called people that lay claim, again, to being conscious, woke, aware. It just amazes me how ignorance, in my opinion, can sometimes run more rampant in them than, let's say, a spooked out, faith-believing Christian or religious person. All right? It just never ceases to amaze. And you hear sometimes the dumbest shit from these quote-unquote conscious woke people. Okay? And the fear and the indoctrination that, by all means, is still in them on a very, 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 very high level. But they say it's not, but it is. It's in them on a very, very high level. They still get scared when they hear the word occult. It's fucking stupid as hell that really in 2019 we're still it's kind of funny to me, I'm sorry. We're still debating over the pentagram, Baphomet, some of these occult symbols that still spook some of these conscious woke people out because they claim not to be indoctrinated, but yet they classify and they connect all this, what in their minds is, or their definition is, of Satanism. Right? I'm not going to really waste my time and too much energy going over the Baphomet shit because I'm so goddamn tired of that. To me, it's a waste of time. Baphomet is a symbol. I don't know how many times, not just myself, you hear anybody that studies the path of the occult clearly knows this. They don't worship Baphomet. It is a symbol no different than a sigil in what it represents to the occultist, the magician, the adept, and how we can vibrate off that sigil, a symbol, and what it represents in our magical work. Representing, again, that totality, equilibrium, masculine and feminine, androgynous energy, the four elements, the rising of the kundalini, etc. I mean, we'll get the point. So no true person on the path to self-mastery worships Baphomet. Any idiot that's sitting there saying that Baphomet is a symbol of the devil, here's how we got to start approaching people like that. They need to first define, in their words, what is their definition of a devil. All right? And I guarantee you it's going to fall under the description of religion. I'm not talking about religious people. I want to make this clear. I'm talking about so-called conscious, woke people, okay? But when somebody makes a statement like that, we need to start holding them accountable and ask them, can you define to me, via your research, or via your opinion, your interpretation, I should say, because it's an interpretation, of what the devil is, before you make a statement like that. And if they're using anything biblical or Quranic, that's religion. All right. If they're making a statement, and remember, these are the facts people now. These are the scholarly, check your research people. Make sure we are validating and confirming the source that they're coming from. Okay, whatever that may be. Because you're going to find out 9 times. My question first is, what is the devil? Okay? And we know the word devil is just the word for adversary, which has root in the word adverse. When you're adverse to something, you're anti or against it, right? As I said before, the story of Lucifer, one of the attributes. What is a fucking attribute, right? Just like in the Quran, Allah has 99 attributes, right? Which are descriptions that describe what he represents. Well, when you all of these different deities, when you tie into them and connect with them on an archetype level, they have many different attributes also. Lucifer is one of the many attributes of the adversary, right? Lucifer representing that light, that intellect, right? Lucifer, we know Lucifer just means light bearer, right? I keep telling people the story of the devil or Lucifer being cast from the heavens and cast down to earth. They were telling you the story when you actually woke the fuck up and you stop becoming spooked out. What it really represents, when you were kicked out of that inner circle of conformity and decided to think for yourself. You want to know how you got here? And this is not just fucking religion from a religious Bible. When you hear the term in many different circles, metaphysical, religious, occult circles, you hear the statement, you're here because you chose to be here. And I don't have a problem with that. Now the debate comes in is, well, how do we really validate that? Because you got the motherfucking facts people that gotta be in somebody's motherfucking book somewhere. And I keep trying to tell, if the word occult means hidden, not everything is written in a book somewhere, motherfuckers. Get this through your mind. If you're one of the motherfuckers you're no different than a Bible-toting Christian that needs to verify a passage or a scripture, and if they can't, then they don't accept it as a reality. Not everything is in a book. Not everything can be explained in the three-dimensional existence, person, place, and thing. When you're dealing with black magic and you're working with the higher realms, yes, it is subjective on many levels to the individual, which explains why you are not able or capable to find it written somewhere so you can validate it and feel comfortable in your insecurities. So I'm saying that to say, it don't mean you just write it off. It just means maybe at this point in your spiritual journey, you just can't confirm it for a reality. That's it. And that's fine. And you shouldn't accept it if you can't confirm it for reality. But don't be ignorant and go on the flip side and start bashing shit you have no knowledge of, is what I'm trying to say. That's my whole point. Okay? So, yes, a lot of it might be subjective when you're working with your subjective realm, the spiritual realm, the astral plane, the astral realm, whatever you want to. Because people are, well, you got a lot of people that are on the fence with astral traveling, right? Now, the only thing, I can only speak on my experience and others with similar like experience. Astral traveling, taking flight, shape-shifting, taking different forms is a motherfucking fact, okay? And I say it's a fact to me because I can confirm it for self. It's a fact to others that can confirm it for self. I'm using this as an example. But for those that have not experienced it, guess what? It's not a fact to them. But does it mean it's not a reality, it doesn't exist? Which poses the next question that I always bring up in circles and nobody ever gives a definitive answer. Is there such a thing as absolute truth? I would love to get a legitimate answer on this. Not fucking tap dancing, straddling the fence, buck dancing and all that shit. A simple yes or no. You will find out truth is very personal. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this, and I hope this squashes the fear and the insecurities that people have when they're not really what it is when they lash out at other paths that they're not aware or familiar with. That's a classic insecure tactic to just attack it out of ignorance. The question is there such a thing as pure, undiluted, absolute truth? The average spiritual person, not just religious person, will tell you yes, there is. That's their first mistake, okay? Truth is personal and truth is subjective, okay? Because first and foremost, what might be a truth or a fact or reality to one individual, that may not be a truth, a fact, or reality to the next based on their experience and where they're at in their journey. Now, I'm not talking about basic common sense shit. I'm not talking about 1 + 1 = 2 and all that. I'm talking about on a spiritual level. Because where I think the problem comes in with a lot of people is they're caught up in this historical shit, culture, tradition, and all this shit, and they don't know how to correlate that and bridge the gap with spirituality. I keep saying this all the time. You have all these groups out here, talking about how great Egypt is and Africa is, and they want to identify with all these cultures and civilizations and all these different systems, right? But yet, I don't see it changing them or evolving them or providing any results in their life on a spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, or financial level. See, working magic, being an adept, is taking control of the very course of your life, your very existence. You don't put that in the hands of another. You're not a conformist. You don't want to be part of no fucking Mickey Mouse club or no group. You don't want to do things because everybody is doing them. An adept is looking at trying to do things and accomplish things that's going to bring beneficial change in their life. Now, here's where the problem comes in, though. Why people run from this path? Because you always hear me constantly talking about dealing with your personal stuff, shit, nonsense, or we like to call it on this path, your shadow self. Are you really dealing with your shadow self? Your shadow self is that rage. Your shadow self is your fears, your wants, your desires. Your shadow self is those uninhibited thoughts that you were programmed to think from a very early age you shouldn't be thinking about. Your shadow self are some of your sexual perversions. Now, perversion necessarily, let me make this clear. We hear the word perversion, pervert, it automatically comes off as something negative. So let me say your sexual fantasies or desires. Let's talk about that. You were taught from a very young age, this stuff is taboo. You can't think like that. You're not supposed to have them thoughts. So you bury the shadow self and you don't deal with it. This is all part, in essence, that makes up the real you and part of your bullshit. So you think by burying them, right? You might have a high sex drive, so you try to suppress it. No, mistake. Most paths will tell you, you must discipline. You must avoid, you must suppress, meditate it away, do chants and chant the shit away. That ain't gonna make your desire for pussy go away. But that ain't gonna make your desire, if you're a female, for dick to go away. So the adept approaches it, he or she, and says, how can I quench this sexual desire but not running amok without discipline? How can I get this pussy that I'm craving, or this dick if I'm a female that I'm craving, within discipline and reason? Okay? It's called being selective, finding a person of like mind, like body, like mental, and coming to an understanding. Whether you're gonna do sex magic, ritualistic work, or you just gonna straight fuck. See, that's the difference how we think on this path. Now, as straightforward and maybe too much for somebody, one, I don't give a fuck. I couldn't care, because this is not about catering to your emotions and putting you on, somebody's lap and cuddling you. That's how we deal with our shit on this path. That's what I mean when I call about the doctrine of indulgence. Being able to indulge, but not being consumed. Let me say that again. Being able to be indulged, not being consumed. Let me say the same thing again with food now. Right? See, the Hotepers, the religious vegans, and I gotta call it for what it is, because veganism has become its own fucking religion nowadays. You don't eat this, don't eat that. Right? These are the same motherfuckers that claim to be so holistic and vegan, and they're going to Whole Foods and Fresh Market, not realizing that they inject that shit with preservatives, steroids, artificial chemicals for shelf life, and it's not 100% organic, but let them think it is. Same thing with the meat. If you're not, if you're eating healthy and organic. Like I said, if you ain't growing it yourself and pulling it from the ground, from the earth itself, it's not pure. But anyway, it's a whole nother story for a whole nother session. They'll tell you shouldn't eat this. Don't eat ice cream. Don't eat this. Don't eat cake. And you're right. You shouldn't be eating it all the time. But see, how we address it on this path and deal with our shit, like, I have one cheat day a month for ice cream. That's it. I'm just giving you an example where I can appease the desire via that indulgence, but I would be giving in and being consumed if I was doing it consistently. Okay? I'm just giving basic kindergarten fucking examples. See, the problem why those dogmas, spiritual systems don't work, because they act like humanity is not a reality. So I got to speak on this real quick. I ain't with all that shit. Yeah, don't give in to your humanity. And what it means is don't be consumed by your humanity. Motherfucker, you are living here. You are on the earth. You are doing human things. You are going to eat human motherfucking food. Okay? Let's understand the fine line between what that statement means. What it means on a higher spiritual level is, don't think in your mind you're just this weak mortal human. That's what needs to be clarified. But some people take it to the extreme and they think you shouldn't be doing anything physical, which is stupid to fucking me. Money's no good. Money is the root of all evil. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. If you're so spiritual and deep, like I said before, stop paying your motherfucking mortgage and meditate your mortgage payment. Let me see how that shit works out for you. Meditate your light bill being paid. I'm just saying, if you one of them fluffy ass motherfuckers, don't be in the world. Just don't be in it. But just look. Bottom line is this: you are in the motherfucking world, and most people that talk that nonsense are usually people that have failed at life. All right, and let me keep it 100 for you. A motherfucker that's telling you money's the root of all evil, that's because they ain't got no money. All right, point blank. Because you'll find out. Talk to a person who's successful, be it business, certain areas of their life, and then talk to somebody that ain't got shit, and you're going to get two difference of opinion. Because as I said before, reality is what cures about 65 to 75% of life's problems is a steady motherfucking income. So I don't care what your personal opinion on money, what it is and what it's not. Can we agree that it is a necessity and a reality to survive on the motherfucking human realm and take care of our everyday life needs? See, I gotta address this because motherfuckers like to go to Spookville and they want to talk all this heavy shit, but they ain't got their regular shit together. And I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, so let me reiterate that. So whatever your opinion is on that, you're entitled to it. But don't tell me when I got houses that I got to pay mortgages on that it's not a motherfucking reality. Okay? Don't tell me the house I bought, that I own, that I live in, didn't take no money to fucking buy. Don't tell me this car I'm sitting in right now, making payments on, that I don't need money to make a payment to sit in this car and drive it and talk to you right now. Because my ass would be somewhere out there on the curb waiting for a motherfucking bus to come. Okay? See, what I'm trying to say is sometimes you gotta take somebody back to motherfucking kindergarten and get them to see the basics of reality. Because you can't be this deep shaman, mystic, spiritual guru if you don't have that basic understanding. Which takes me back to my whole point about fear. People want to escape everyday reality and hide in these spiritual systems. I don't care if it's Kemetic, Ifa, Santeria, Buddha, I don't give a fuck what it is. Because it's an escape from not dealing with everyday life and reality. And usually it's an escape from being a failure. So they think by submerging themselves in one of the spiritual systems, that's going to compensate for their inadequacies and their failures in life. Whereas on this path, it's completely opposite. We say, fuck that. Alright, I'm going to deal with this shit head on. Alright, this is what I'm dealing with. And as I said before, people that work with me know I'm going to address the core issues when we do spiritual work. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I look for all the red flags, the blame game. The client that's always, got some excuse or reasoning why they're in some bad situation or fucking predicament. No. You're in the predicament because of the choices you made. See, that's a hard pill to swallow. We don't like to accept that. No, this person had it out for me. This person set me up. It's easy to play the role of the victim in life. Very easy. Because look, if I don't like something, or if I see that somebody played me, or I see that something went wrong, or I see that a situation has arisen that I don't like, I fix it, or I just cut it off. I just don't fuck with it. I don't go blaming nobody for the shit. If I don't like a motherfucker, I just don't deal with them. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit here and cry wolf how they did me wrong, because I recognize I opened myself up for that reality. You understand? Now that's not different than that's not the same thing as being the victim, let's say, of a crime, a random crime. I'm not talking about that. That sometimes, unfortunately, is things that happen in life that at the moment the individual doesn't have control over. That's a different scenario. I'm talking about when people look at things in their life as a whole and try to find reasons why they are failing, but never ever point the finger at themselves. That's a problem. You understand? And all that indoctrinated has been instilled in us not to take responsibility, not to ever take any type of, accountability. Let's just blame it on some shit that we don't have no control over. I mean, how do you factor that into the equation? When you were the one that had made it, if you bring certain individuals into your life, that's your decision. Regardless, you can say, well, I didn't know that's how they were. Well, of course. But still, you made a conscious decision to bring, now you know. So what the fuck are you doing to fix it? Other than explaining what went wrong, how you got into the predicament you got, but you never said, well, I invited that person into my personal space. If I don't like a motherfucker in my personal space, I just cut them out. I just don't deal with them. That's all. It's that simple. I'm not gonna feed into it. I'm not gonna play the blame game. Anyway, these are all ways of thinking that instill fear, and it goes back to what I was talking about in the very beginning of this video. When people hear the term Satan, the devil, demons, and even when you explain the root word of demons coming from daemon, right, and how that word was ostracized through monotheism, and all the word demon or daemon means is the higher self, the real self of an individual, but that got transitioned via monotheistic religion as some terrifying, horrific entities, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. No matter how much you explain to these so-called woke conscious people, they still don't realize that they're indoctrinated, and there's still a lot of this trauma on their subconscious mind, because they hear those words and they still get scared, they still fear, and they're quick. Everything is the race card, right? The white man this. See, that's white folk stuff, and that's a misconception, because all of these occult left-hand path methodologies have their origin in Africa. And as I said in one of the videos did a week or so ago, how come nobody talks about that? How come nobody is talking about voodoo and witchcraft and African sorcery and black magic? These were practices done in ancient primitive Africa way before any of this shit that anybody's talking about today. That's when we truly had our power on this planet. Once we gave that shit up and started dumbing it down, whether it's religion or what I like to call the new modern day religion, Hotepism, Ifaism, and all the other isms that we got going on, once we dumbed the power down, it took away from its strength. And now it's watered down. So now we fear that which we created, which is sad. Let me say it again. We fear or feared or are afraid of that which we created. Nobody talks about Nandoki. Nobody talks about the powers and the origin of Obeah. You're going to tell me this is European stuff? You're going to tell me this came... I'm not talking about modern day times. Is there European influence in some of this stuff? Of course there is. That's not what I'm talking about. That's the other game people like to play. They like to take you to modern times. Same thing when you look at a lot of the voodoo traditions in Haiti. Even though there's a lot of West African spiritual systems incorporated in there, of course it's influenced modern day in certain circles by Catholicism. I mean, come on, it's a no fucking brainer. That's not what I'm talking about. But that's where people are quick to point the finger because they don't understand it. Okay? And it goes deeper than that, is what I'm trying to say. So why is it when you hear the word black magic, witchcraft, sorcery, right, you fear? When you claim to be dealing, when these same people claim to be dealing with the original this of Egypt and Africa, the shit you dealing with is about as original as fucking Lay's potato chips. That's about as original the shit is. Okay, why are none of the people who study Kemetic studies, and I hate to use that word Kemet, as I already told you before, that's a Hebrew word. Okay, Al-Chem or Kemet. Chem is the name used in Genesis for the son of Noah, Ham. It just means black. Kemet means land of the blacks. It could have never been called that because Kemet is a Hebrew word. You tell me what pre-dynastic Egyptians were speaking Hebrew. Pre-dynastic. Okay? So why the fuck would you even call it Kemet? It's not Egypt. We know that. That's Greek. Egyptos. It means burnt. That's when the Indo-Aryans and the Greeks came in and mixed with the original Nubians. And because the sun burnt their face, they called it Egyptos. Hence we get the word Egyptians. But why are all the woke conscious people still referring to it as Egypt? They're so woke and conscious. Then we got the Alki-Bulan people. Those are my favorite. Yeah, one time the whole continent was called Alki-Bulan. No, it wasn't. Only a region and an area of Northeast Africa was called Alki-Bulan at one time. I got no problem with that. You cannot show any documentation for all the fact history checkers. Not a fact. But they'll still call it Kemet and claim they're not under the spell of the European and religion. They'll still say Egypt, but they'll say they're not under the spell of religion of the European. I find that very contradictory. But when we present occult information to them and we say this fictitious character that they've called the devil in religion and other systems, this is what it really is. It's an archetype. It's a symbol that represents the adversary. The adversary to what? Back to the story of Lucifer falling from grace, as they say in religion. What that really represents, to those that twisted the story around, was when you finally woke up. Your fall was actually your rise, okay? To the occultist or the Luciferian, and as I told you, one of the main things in my spiritual work I deal with is Luciferianism, okay? Because Luciferianism represents that God mindset, that when we say Lucifer to a Luciferian, we mean the light bearer, the intellect. But a Luciferian can take that intellect and that knowledge and take it and show forth the wisdom that they've received from that knowledge or that light or that intellect. Because if you can't show your wisdom from that intellect and light that you're receiving via Lucifer, then you're not really ingesting the Luciferian principles. You're not applying it. You're not manifesting it in your daily life. You're not evolving and changing, okay? So the difference is when we look at what it represents. That's why you hear me been saying a lot over the last several weeks or so. Stop focusing on the way they have presented what Lucifer, when I say they, the so-called historians that aren't Luciferian, they don't know what it is. They've just gathered information from different sources and they claim this is what it is. And here's the other misconception. People think some people automatically associate Luciferianism with Satanism. And that's completely false. Because you'll find some practicing Luciferians that don't deal with any concepts of Satan or Satanism at all. Are there some circles that connect it in what it represents? Yes, of course they do. But there's not one specific aspect. So as I keep telling people, focus on the concepts and what it represents. That's the important part. You don't need to be a full-fledged Luciferian to apply Luciferian practices and principles on your path. There are a lot of things we do in many different paths that are very Luciferian in nature, if you really analyze it and look at it. And I mentioned a couple months back in one of the videos, shit, a lot of the Hotep is a Luciferian in nature, but they don't even catch it. I'm God, or the black man. Anybody that makes the statement in woke consciousness that the black man is God, that is very Luciferian in nature. Because what's the first core principle of Luciferianism? That you are God. Right? How come nobody talks about that? Why do they act like Luciferianism is a bunch of people wearing black robes, walking around some altar with some satanic deity on it and worshiping it? That's what the ignorant believe. Because they don't, one, really do the research like they claim. Because they take their information from other people that have been indoctrinated. That's not what Luciferianism, if Luciferianism is, if that's what you think it is. Right? It's not the isms like the previous isms that I mentioned. Okay? It's totally different. It's a certain mindset, a certain approach. It's very magical in its approach because Luciferian magic deals with a high capacity of mental power that not everybody has the capability to perform. Trust me when I tell you. And a lot of these people that don't know about it but speak out against it, which is pure ignorance, these are the people I'm talking about, don't have the mind power or the willpower. So we have to be clear, one, when we're making a statement against something, where is that coming from? If I make a statement against something, which I don't necessarily per se do that on a wide scale level, but I'm clear from what perspective I'm coming from and why. Okay? Because when you go back, again, as I was saying in the beginning, when you hear this word, excuse me, when you hear this word, Satan, the devil, Baphomet, what comes to mind when you hear that? Am I talking to somebody on this path? If it's a person that per se ain't on this path, like people that are, fear, they'd have to be honest with themselves. Fear is the first thing that comes to the surface. Now, I'm saying this to say, here's how you do work on yourself. If they were honest, they would say fear. And then the next question I would ask them, where or what was the point of origin of that fear? Then they would have to start reflecting back in their life and admit they were raised a certain way and it came via some type of social circle, whether it was family life, school or educational life, or religious life. Okay, it's real simple.